The Fermi paradox is the conflict between the lack of clear, hard evidence for the existence of extraterrestrial life against the variously high estimates for the probability of its existence. If our galaxy is so likely to support other intelligent species outside of our own planet, where then, quipped Fermi nonchalantly one lunchtime, are all the aliens? The game, bearing the name of this famous conundrum, was released in early access form in the summer of 2021, with the aim of bringing the final version of the game out in the summer of 2022. It's the first game to be released by the small team of developers and artists that make up Anomaly Games, and definitely looks like a labour of love for them. Fermi Paradox creator Jörg Reisig began the project back in 2016, gradually recruiting the rest of the team from there. He had previously worked in the German games industry as a programmer, working on titles like Dreadnought and Desperados 2. The Fermi Paradox is a narrative-driven strategy game which sees the player take on the role of a galactic gardener, or god if you prefer, tasked with overseeing the development of life in our own galaxy. You'll find yourself presented with plenty of interesting and unexpected moral and ethical problems, but also drawn in by the smallest developments which send ripples through time that you couldn't predict. The player may only influence the world in largely non-direct ways of varying subtlety, with every action having consequences that have the potential to echo for millennia in the cultures and beliefs of the species below you. Using synthesis points to effect changes, the player must choose carefully, as spending a lot at one time may render you unable to intervene effectively at a later time of crisis. As the game progresses, other planets will also evolve intelligent species, and so the issue of points management becomes ever more crucial, as species in the early stages of development lurch wildly from environmental crisis to war and famine in the blink of an eye, with every new technological age bringing in its own unique problems. As species progress through the ages, often having been brought to the brink of extinction at one point or another, they will eventually begin transmitting radio signals which may be picked up by species on other planets. If another species hears the signal at the right time, it may inspire them to begin exploring space, or they may just choose to ignore it, all determined by the amount of points the player has available and the socio-political climate of the species receiving the information. They may even react with hostility. Either way, species which progress far enough will begin to explore space, and eventually, when enough species reach the singularity age, the final technology can be produced, resulting in galactic harmony. Or not. It's really down to you and the stories that you want to tell. Therein lies the strength of the Fermi paradox. Every playthrough has the potential to tell an epic tale of intergalactic war, or a tragedy of loneliness in an existential void. An inspirational tale of hope and triumph against adversity, or a tense political tale warning us of impending dystopia. The game is far from finished, and in its current state there are several obvious flaws. Alien species developing too closely along the lines of human history tends to lift you out of the story being told, and first contact scenarios play out with too little fanfare. These are all things that the developers are aware of and are actively working on. They're listening to the emerging community around the game, and the road ahead does look excellent. The range of species is due to be increased from 12 to, quote, at least 30. A dedicated storyteller mode is planned, and more detail to all encounters and scenarios is also on the way. I immediately found myself completely engrossed in the Fermi paradox and its ever-evolving story, and really enjoyed the way that I only felt that I was in control of proceedings around about 60% of the time. You never know what story may unfold before you. I've had civilizations go extinct, only to have the ruins of their lives discovered by alien explorers, who then go on to settle amongst them, taking the artifacts they find as the basis for a new religion and culture, before being wiped out themselves by invaders of their own kind from the far future. I've also seen the galaxy unite in synchronized harmony, with barely a war happening all throughout history. Overall, I'm excited by the prospect of the Fermi paradox developing into a great sci-fi storytelling game, and I recommend you taking a look at it as soon as you can.